Welcome to Rewired. I'm your host, Laura Schwalm, and I'm thrilled about tonight's transformational topic, with special guest Heather Leigh Strong. Together, we are going to embark on a profound and enlightening journey into the realm of healing through the extraordinary bond we share with our four-legged friends. Yes, you guessed it, our furry little friends. We're diving deep into the mystical world of canine spirit guides and their unique healing powers. I invite you to open your hearts and minds as we explore this fascinating connection with our special guest, Heather Leigh Strom, a remarkable quantum healer. Heather's journey is nothing short of inspiring, and it beautifully illustrates how intertwined our lives can be with the energies around us, especially those that come from our beloved canine companions. But before I bring Heather on, I just wanted to explain what quantum healing entails a little bit, just because, a lot of people may not know. Now, at its core, this practice incorporates the idea that we are surrounded by energy fields. And through our interactions with these energies, we can foster healing in our lives. Now, imagine for a moment feeling an invisible force that not only nurtures your spirit, but also guides you towards profound transformation. That's exactly what Heather experienced through her connection with her canine spirit guides. As Heather engaged with the energy surrounding her, she found not just physical healing, but a spiritual awakening that completely redefined her understanding of herself and her place in the universe. Each encounter with her canine guides opened new doors, revealing the interconnectedness of all living beings and the powerful lessons they have to teach. Now, tonight we'll dive deeper into Heather's story, exploring the transformational moments that shaped her path and the incredible insights she's gained along the way. So grab a cozy blanket, settle in, and let's embark on the captivating journey together. Are you ready to discover the healing magic that lies within the bond we share with our dogs? Welcome, Heather. Thank you for taking the time out today. Really, I really so appreciate you and share your
Thank,
wisdom.
thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate the platform and the opportunity to share.
I mean, there's so many questions, but share the inspiration behind the Galactic KD and how your journey led you to work with the Canine Spirit Guides. Like,
That's a loaded question, and we could spend all night on that question alone. Well, the canine spirit guides are not my creation. It's not something I sat around and created based on my experiences. And their book was not something that was written in typical format either, because it was all channeled. So I had no idea this experience was coming. I had no idea this shift was coming. And, I spent 30 years in the medical profession, left brained. I actually started out in the accounting profession, so really left brain.
oh,
Um, and I did not know any of this was coming. I didn't know anything about the quantum field. I didn't know that the dogs that I had worked with my entire life, because I was also a professional dog trainer, I didn't know that they carried incredible healing power with them. And that the reason they were in my life was because they were attempting to connect with me. The canine guides were attempting to connect with me through the dogs that I had. I had over 30 dogs in my life so far.
oh.
And so I didn't catch on to that. I just knew my life was really hard. It was not fun. And thankfully, I've always had a go-getter, attitude about life, and I've taken life by the horns, or I would have given up a long time ago. um, but things shifted in 2020, and when we were all in lockdown, when the planet sent us all to our rooms for a timeout, I started to get messages. I started to feel like something big was coming, and it was really difficult because I wasn't sure if it was just me that things were coming for, or if it was the planet in general or humanity in general. And so one day I was out in the yard with my dog. Thank heavens I had a dog. Many people didn't during the lockdown. And we stumbled upon a little animal in the grass, and my dog was instantly repelled by it, which was not usual for her, not common. She's a predator. So if she found something in the grass, usually she'd go after it. So it really scared me. And I thought, what in the world could this be? So I walked up to it, and it was a conjoined squirrel. Do you know what I mean by a conjoined squirrel?
It was two squirrels connected to each other.
It was a Siamese twin
Oh,
squirrel.
wow. I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like that before.
Most people will never see anything like that in their lifetime in person. I've seen it in books and on shows, but it was a Siamese twin squirrel that was joined at the back, and it had fallen from the tree, and it looked to be about half grown. So the mother had continued to feed it in the nest. It would never be able to walk, but it had fallen out of the tree, and it was there waiting for me. And when I saw this squirrel, I felt this energy just descend down upon me. And when all of your hairs stand on end and you just feel this instant tingling, this electricity just wash over you. I don't know if you've ever had anything that made you feel this way. Okay. That's exactly what happened. And it almost felt like I was placed in a sealed box. It's hard to explain, because for several days after this, I had this profound sense of sorrow and grief. And I'm like, what? Where is this coming from? Is this from the planet? I didn't find out for 2 years what this all meant. And it was during the process of writing the Canine Spirit Guide, my book, Canine Spirit Guides, as I was channeling the book, that they explained to me what this was. And it was a call to arms. It was my signal for me and for my spiritual team, my energetic team, that it was time to get going on the plan, that it was time for me to be activated. So this was all happening behind the scenes. I had no idea it was coming. I wasn't looking for a spiritual awakening. I wasn't doing anything spiritual. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't taking classes. I was a very busy person. I was a licensed physical therapist. I had my own practice with that. So, this wasn't something I went looking for. And my life began to shift. Energy began to shift. And all of a sudden I start feeling this need to connect with people who could help me through something big that was coming. I didn't know what it was, but I knew something big was coming. Sure. And so I started to build this team. I had a psychic shaman. I had a numerologist. I had an astrologer. I had a regressive hypnotherapist. And lo and behold, on February 22nd, 2022, the doors opened for me. That's when I began my massive awakening journey. And my book was written in 6 months. It was completely channeled, and I didn't even know I could do anything like that. So that's when the Canine Spirit Guides introduced themselves to me. I thought I was going to be writing a book about my dogs, and what I learned over the 6-month period was that it wasn't the dogs themselves that were speaking to me. It was the Canine Spirit Guides, who are essentially, a very basic way of putting it, they are the spirit guides of our canines.
So I want to just ask you to get to our next question. Like, how do you differentiate between a regular pet and a canine spirit guide? And how do canine companions foster spiritual healing?
There's about 3 questions in there.
I know, but I figured it's easier for you to elaborate and keep going.
Yeah.
And,
so
together.
all dogs have their own spirit guides. They all have their own soul, right? They all have their own reason for being here. They are also here for humanity and for the planet. They are much more connected to source than we are. Instant connection to source. Now, just like people, there are different varieties of that I found, and from what I've been shown in all of my years of working with dogs, and from what the canine spirit guides tell me and share with me, there's a tiering system as well for the animals, just like there are for people. So there are more spiritual animals and there are less spiritual animals. So the more inexperienced animal souls are going to behave more like animals. The more advanced spiritual soul of the canine is going to behave more. Those are the dogs that you just look at and you're like, wow, that dog knows what's going on. Yeah. You can feel it. You can tell it in their behavior. They look at you with purpose. They see right through you when they look at you. These dogs are masters, but there's also the beginner dogs that are just dogs. They're kind of crazy. They're more animalistic. They're not quite as connected. They're kind of like a wild ADHD child, that it's hard to get them focused, and they might behave more animalistic. So they might be more natural in their behavior, more like a dog would. So resource guarding or wanting to fight or prove their dominance, that sort of thing. So there's different levels of spirituality in the dogs themselves too. The canine guides will work through all the dogs. So they might be working with you through your dog, and if you have a really young soul dog, then they might speak with you or communicate with you through that dog's behavior. So the dog might chew everything up if they're trying to get your attention, or it might keep running off if they're trying to get your attention and bring a message home to you. A more advanced dog will be able to telepathically share those messages with you, and if you don't pick up on it, then they will start to exhibit behaviors to get your attention. Okay. So this is how they communicate with us. And this is what my book is full of, are these stories of how my dogs, the first book only has 10 dogs in it. And these 10 dogs were actually only 4 dogs that reincarnated. So each time they came back, they were working with the same canine spirit guide, and they were taking me to the next level. So as soon as they were done with the first level, they would leave my life. They always chose when they were coming and when they were going. And this is important for us to understand about our dogs, and, grieving the loss of our dogs. It's always a perfect timing. And when we understand this, and my book is a good illustration of that, because each time a dog left, another canine spirit guide came in with another dog, because it was time for me to move to the next level with a different canine spirit guide. And so they kept circulating back. And this is what the book demonstrates, is that I would say, nope, I would refuse to, not knowing that they were trying to communicate with me, I would refuse the opportunity. So they would say, okay, she's not ready. They'd wait a certain amount of time, and then they'd excuse themselves. Another canine guide would come in and say, okay, are we ready for this level? Nope, she's still not ready, darn it. they would just keep recycling. So I have so many stories of, new dogs coming into my life that would always call to me. I'd always have to find them. Some of them are in other countries. I'd have to find them and bring them to me, because I was supposed to be with this canine for that portion of my life. And thank goodness my life supported that. I have a husband that never said no to another dog. Because there was a real drive to me. When I got these callings, I had to fulfill the calling. Everything inside of me, it's kind of like an addict. Everything inside of me said, you've got to do this. You've got to do this. And I couldn't think about anything else until I made that connection. So this is what I call a calling, when they are calling to me. But you can have a regular dog. Some people who aren't spiritual at all, or there's no possibility of a message getting through, you might just have a regular dog.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they're not gonna, no one can force you to do anything. I mean, the number one law of this universe is free will.
You know what I noticed? I just want to share, like when we moved down to St. Augustine, and my husband was by himself a lot. He got a dog. He had the first dog. And this dog is very soulful, you can tell. And then I wasn't planning on getting a dog,
Mhm.
but I wound up like babysitting a Chihuahua that I fell in love with. And so my son kept saying, get a dog, get a dog, get a dog. And 4 days before my husband died, I got a dog. Yeah, like it was like he was in hospice. And
Oh,
it was like, and this dog is like a little circus dog. Like he's almost like a fun little dog. And so we just say the fun little circus dog, which likes to be dominant, like it is like a less evolved dog because I'm more spiritual. And my husband, who was not spiritual really, he got the soulful dog.
well, I wouldn't say that your Chihuahua is not the soulful dog because remember, I mean, that dog came to you with purpose,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I mean, that was no accident. Um, so when you feel called all of a sudden to get a dog, then that dog, that canine spirit guide is reaching for you. And these dogs are part of our soul family. So they already know why our soul's here, what we're hoping to achieve here, and they sign on to assist us in achieving our goals to keep us on track.
Well, what I love about that, what I loved about it is that it's almost like that that dog really does give that unconditional love, really that love and just the personality is really, you know, it gives so much joy. But I feel like the two different personalities of these dogs, and I'm completely understanding what you're getting at about spirit guides, only because the two of you would see the two dogs together, they're the exact opposite.
Uh-huh.
So one is will go play around, and I feel like both the dogs give me balance because I tend
Yeah.
to get imbalance. So it's like
Yeah. I actually have
energy.
a story about that in my book, The Dichotomy of Sisters. I had two dogs that were sisters, and they're exactly like you described. They were polar opposites. They each had a completely different purpose with me, and their behaviors were different. Their tendencies were different. What they appreciated in life and what their focus in life was focused on was
Yeah.
different. But they represented two different parts of me that I needed to integrate.
Yeah. Oh, so that's funny. Two different parts that I need to integrate. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's funny how we don't realize that it's like anything else when you're called to something. It's like a crystal, right? When you're called to a
Yeah.
crystal, the crystal needs you. Well, when you're called to this dog, you're called to them because the spirit guide is wants to come into your life to help heal you. So we
Yeah.
got into a discussion the first time that we spoke where you said, don't say that it's medicine. Don't say that it's medicine. So explain to like the audience again, because people can get confused with the medicine, animal medicine, which anybody that knows about the totems, which are old and outdated, as you said, but explain.
Gosh, I'm trying to remember what we were talking about when I said that.
Because
Well,
I
this is new technology. The canine spirit guides are bringing in new technology to the planet, and it's very high frequency, instant healing technology that we have not housed here on this earth plane before. So the reason, and you might notice the images of all the canine guides have a split image. There's a part
Yeah.
canine here. This is a Basenji. And the other part is a wild animal, which on this canine guide is the Black Panther. And this took a little investigation for me to figure out because this is not common for the wild animals, for the shamanic animals to pair up this way. According to my shaman mentor that I worked with. He was quite surprised when I brought this to him. But the reason they're doing this is because the canine frequency is coming to this planet for the first time, and it needs assistance to be able for us to be able to hold it here. And the wild animal, the shamanic animal part of this canine spirit guide, they work in conjunction with each other, is an established frequency here. So it's able to contain the new frequency that's coming in from the dog breed, from off planet. It could be another solar system, another planet, anything. The shamanic animal helps to hold it here, gives it an anchor so that until we're able to hold it here, until the planet is able to hold on to all of this frequency. And that's why its effects are so instant. Humanity has always been told that healing takes time, that it's a process, that you need to understand why you're hurting. And, we go to therapy, and for months and sometimes years, we talk about the same things over and over and over again. And all that does is that holds that energy in a state of confinement. It can't be healed from there, because
Right.
there's no place for it to go, because you're holding it, right? You're holding on to all of that. And what they came to teach us and to help us with is the ability to just heal instantly. And this is what they did with me as I wrote the book. I finally said yes to the healing that they were offering me as I channeled the book. And each guide I worked with, because I wrote this book one section at a time. I had no idea where it was going when I wrote it. I wrote everything that the first guide told me. I wrote that section. Then I started on the second section, which was everything the second guide told me. And then I went on from there. And then at the very end, I put it all together and I went, whoa, because I didn't see it coming at all. And I didn't know where they were going with it. But the one thing that they were trying to show me, and they were healing me through this process. So I would go into a meditation and I would get instant healing in that meditation, and my body would just respond and just let go of this frequency that I've been holding on to for many, many lifetimes. And it would just dissipate like that. And I'd come out of meditations and my husband was like, "You look like you've been running a marathon." What was going on in there?
I wanted to ask you a question about your meditations. How do your animals connect to their spirit guides in your mini meditation course, the Divine Unity Activation? What can participants expect to experience, and how does it promote healing? I know that's more than one question, but we get it all in.
So the canine guides don't have to connect to you through the animal. We can do it directly, and that's the work that I do. So when I work with my clients, I'm directly connecting them with the canine spirit guide in the session. So they don't have to have that canine spirit guide working with them through their dog. They don't even have to have a dog. So we're not always working with the canine guide. If you do have a dog, we're not always working with the canine guide that's with you presently. We have the ability to take you higher than that. Most people aren't going to let go of their dog and go with another dog with a different canine guide. What was the other question? The other part of that question?
It was like, how does the
In
divine
the workshops.
yeah,
Okay.
what can the participants expect to experience? Like, how does it promote healing?
Yeah, so the programs that the canine guides have had me create, this is all from them. Usually when I start advertising a program or a workshop, I have no idea what it's going to be about. And I get frustrated with them because they're having me promote this. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell people it's about. You got to give me more than that. So sometimes they wait to the last minute to really clue me in on what the event's going to be about, as far as they're waiting to see who's interested in coming and what they need. And then they decide what they need to bring forward. So when I do workshops, it's usually with 2, 3, sometimes 4 canine spirit guides, and they will tell me what it needs to be structured around, what type of people will need to attend, and that they're, wanting to assist. And so in the workshops, I will share who these canine spirit guides are. I'll tell the participants all about them, what type of work they do, what their animals are, how they can connect with them. And then we do a live, it looks like a guided meditation, but it's a healing session. We do a live healing session with everybody on the spot from that canine guide. So sometimes they work one at a time. So we might have 4 different healing sessions in a workshop. Sometimes they come in all together at once and do
Wow.
everything all at once. So that's very interesting. They usually keep that a surprise too. So they keep me on my toes. But each program is different because it has a different focus. And so, you would, whatever you feel drawn to probably is what you should investigate, because that's you're getting a message from the canine guides.
Would it be, just to help the audience, like if someone has like suffered with guilt or shame, there's a specific canine that specializes in healing that trauma?
Yeah, that's a good question. So usually Anthea takes care of that. And she is the first guide that I introduced in the book. She's the golden retriever and the cheetah. I think she's the first one up there in the corner. And she's a very motherly type energy, very warm and gentle, very chatty. And it's like walking into your house and your grandmother welcoming you with a warm plate of chocolate chip cookies is what she's kind of like. And she works a lot with the heart chakra, and she helps us to integrate those lower vibrational emotions and trauma. And it doesn't, she'll tell you where the trauma is coming from. It could be a past life, it could be an ancestral pattern, it could be something off planet that you're enduring at the same time that you're trying to integrate. So she'll tell you where it's coming from if it's necessary that not everybody needs to know.
Mhm.
The guides make that choice, and then she provides the frequency to do that. She's really interesting because she likes to work with um, a crystal. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's apophyllite. Yeah, I've got some over here. She was the first guide to work with a crystal, and she uses this crystal a lot of times in the healing sessions. And this is just a little apophyllite in here. I don't know if you can see it very well, um, but it's really fascinating. Each of these guides has their own unique way of working. Some like to use different colors and frequencies. Some like to use, the crystals. It just depends. And they're all very different. They all have different purposes and different focuses in life. The dog that I have right now, Gigi, which is all over my social media, she's the only one that's in the book that's still alive, because the book traverses my entire life. So most of the dogs in the book are no longer with me, but her guide is Attic, and he's the bald eagle and the pug. And she's a corgi, but she isn't like any other corgi. She's more like a bald eagle. she loves to be adored, but she hates to be touched. She's like, yeah, you can say goo goo things all over me and I love it, but just don't reach out and touch me. And she works at the very high level. She works intergalactically. So she's always with me when I'm working with clients or when I'm meditating. She's always with me because she's watching over me as I move through realms, literally.
So what practices or techniques would you utilize to communicate with the animal spirit guides? Is it something obviously different from the dogs? The dogs are get the information through however they channel, and then how would you get the information? Just psychically,
Yeah.
wise, through
Yeah.
claircognizance, where you clear knowing. Now, how do you feel like your own enthusiasm and dedication enhances the whole healing experience for those who, participate in your program? I always like to ask questions like that, where I feel like you're very upbeat and definitely bring a lot of energy to it. But
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Those are good questions. So I connect in with the canine guides just by tuning in, asking questions, opening my awareness and moving the ego out of the way. I mean, that's the number one thing you have to do is get the ego out of the way and you will channel. Um, I I receive in many different ways. Sometimes it's feelings, sometimes it's visions, sometimes they just tell me and I hear it. I'm open to any form of communication and I listen. I've learned to listen. If you
and
don't listen, you get in trouble.
that's true. Now, what are some of the common challenges or blockages that you see in the individuals that are seeking this spiritual growth, and how can the canine spirit guides help overcome them? Which we talked a little about that, but maybe you can also elaborate on what else, because it's not just about the emotions, I'm sure. I'm sure it's other ways.
Well, the biggest place that I see people getting stuck is in the shadow work. And for whatever reason, I didn't even know what this term meant until I went through it myself. And I went, oh, that's what it is. Um, Shadow work gets a bad rap, and everyone is a little bit afraid of shadow work. And it just means going within and kind of take an inventory. You know, where's this emotion coming from? Why do I have it? Where are these patterns coming from that I consistently repeat in my life? You know, why is it that I don't have boyfriends? Or I attract the wrong boyfriend or the wrong girlfriend? You know, why do these things keep happening in my life? And when you dig into the nitty gritty of yourself, you really start to understand some things about yourself. But there are things you may not understand though, because sometimes it's not you. Sometimes you've taken on an ancestral pattern, which is a pattern of behavior or a belief system that's been passed down through generations. So on the mother line, a lot of times we get this fear of being seen, fear of being ourselves, fear of being persecuted, right? These are all things that Anthea takes care of. And on my father's side, I discovered through this healing process that the canine guides took me through, I discovered I was in a massive entanglement, a multi generational ancestral entanglement on my father's side that I never understood. But once it was shown to me, it made a whole lot of sense. So sometimes we feel like we're just butting our heads against a wall because no matter what we do, until these agreements are are cleared, we're bound to them. So
Yes.
the canine guides will show us where this needs to be cleared, where it's coming from, and then they clear it for you. So it's not like you go home and you have to do homework and you don't have to write 500 times, I believe I am worthy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just done instantly, right? So that's where this new technology is coming in. And it's kind of hard for our human minds to understand this because we've been programmed to think it can't happen that fast. It takes time. Nothing can happen that fast, right? So this is what I have to educate my clients on. And the canine spirit guides will send them home with homework, audio homework, to help them adjust to the new frequency. Because when you get a healing session that works this fast, the hard part for you is holding it, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think the hardest part for a lot of people is allowing.
Yeah,
It's allowing.
absolutely.
You
Yeah,
know, that's the whole thing. It's like everything could be instantaneous. It's our own, because
yeah.
we have the divine inside of us. So we have that power, that love, that light is what we actually are. So everything that's placed in the universe really is to help us. Well, everything that is called to us is there to help us revert back into the energy of unconditional love, where I always try and explain that in every show, just because the shadow parts of ourselves are those parts that we feel separate
Mm,
from
uh-huh. Yeah.
and
Or we judge parts of us that we judge.
reject. Yeah,
Yeah.
it rejects. So we can't then really become the expression of love, and so we can't be as abundant as we could be, and happy and full of joy and light. So that's really what the whole spirit, the canine spirit guides do in all these different dogs. Now, in your experience, do certain breeds or types of dogs have specific like attributes or guides that you notice, like that, or have a particular thing, like you notice that this is a golden retriever, not it's either a golden retriever or a lab on top, right?
Golden retriever. Yeah.
It's a golden retriever. And so is do you ever see more than one dog like that has like a similar spirit guide or
Well, the breeds and the spirit guides won't have anything to do with people's personal dogs, the actual physical dog that they work with. I just want to make that clear. It's an energetic representation of what that guide has to share. So the qualities of the dog breed that it chooses will reflect either the qualities in you that it's trying to assist you with, or qualities that you need to embody, or energy that the guide is wishing to share with you. So it doesn't really have anything to do with your personal dog. Like I said, my dog is a corgi and her guide is a pug. So she actually doesn't act like a corgi. She acts more like a pug.
right? That's what I was trying to explain. Like, I mean, I know that it's not that client's dog.
Yeah.
It's just like this is where we had talked about like almost like the totem, like the person needs the medicine, that particular medicine, just like if a person needed a certain type of plant medicine to heal. It's the same thing. It's like they need that certain medicine, and you're called then as the channel to say, this is the canine that you need. So you
Yeah.
let that canine channel through you.
Yeah. So when I connect with a person's energy, when I'm doing a session with someone, I also connect with the canine spirit guides. There's over 50 of them, and I've downloaded, I think, 13 to date. So I've got a few more to meet. And as new people come forward, new clients that need those guides, that's when these new canine guides are coming forward and introducing themselves. But when I'm in that person's energy and I connect with the canine guides, I say, okay, who needs to work with this soul? Who wants to step forward and help them on their journey at this moment to get where they need to go? And that's when they start downloading stories and history and everything that needs to be known by that person from their soul's frequency and the type of healing. And they'll tell me what guide is going to come and work with them during their session, because I do this beforehand. And then that guide sometimes, not always, sometimes will give me a preview of kind of how the session's going to go, especially if it's someone new. But as I start working with that person, they tend to be like, yeah, just hang on, we're going to surprise you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. So yeah, so they kind of dictate the session. So it's going to change from session to session depending on where that client is at that moment. If the client isn't moving, isn't budging, then you might work with the same canine spirit guide from one session to the next. But if the client is integrating the homework, because they send them home with the recording so that they can hold that frequency, if they're able to hold on to that frequency and they're able to go to the next level next time, they'll work with a different canine spirit guide.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Now, is there a way that a pet owner would be able to recognize their dog's spirit guide and its influence? Like, would they know that its influence on the dog's behavior is like, would they be able to recognize it?
Yeah, it would take some training. The first step would be in reading my book, because that'll get them more familiar with who the guides are and how they work and what sort of things, because I use my life as an example of what sort of things happened in my life that were examples of how the canine spirit guides were trying to connect. Also, I have a training program. I'm going to have a whole canine guide university that's going to be built up. And right now I have the first installment of that through the base camp, which is a program available on my webpage. So this teaches them to it's about recognizing the frequency. So you might be able to recognize the guide that's working with you through your dog based on kind of the scenarios in your life that are happening while that dog is with you, based on the stories in my book. If you're really intuitive, sometimes you can tap into that frequency. So as you read my book, whether you're reading the written one or you're listening to it on Audible, there's a frequency in the book. And the book changes each time it changes. Canine Spirit Guides, the energy of the book changes. So if you really tune in, you're going to be able to pick up on that frequency. And that's what you're going to start to look for in your own dog. Does this frequency match? You know, is this Anthea working with me? Is this Oscar working with me? You know, and you'll start to feel it out and get good at it. But it takes a little bit of education for you to be able to decipher all of that, just because this frequency is so new.
I love that. Now, I'm just curious, can you share any transformative stories or experiences from someone who actually has experienced or participated in one of your workshops or sessions?
Oh, I have so many. I think a really good one to share with you, Laura, is I had a lady come to me that she's actually a Reiki master, and she lost her dog about 6 months before she contacted me. A dog she'd had a long time. She had a really special history with this dog. He'd helped her through some traumatic times in her life, and he died of old age about 6 months before she made an appointment. So she wanted me to help her with her struggle with this loss. And she also wanted to find out what was obstructing her spiritual journey. She felt blocked. So when I tapped into her energy, I instantly heard twin. And I'm like, what do you mean twin? Is this like a vanishing twin? What's going on? So I started working with the guides, and I finally get the story of how when this client was in her mother's womb, she had an older brother that died suddenly. It's like 5 or 6 years old. And the client didn't remember any of this when I asked her. And because her mother mourned while she was in the womb, her soul agreed to take on this trauma for her mother, to hold it for her mother, to ease the burden of her mother. She had no cognitive memory of this, right? When this dog came into her life, the reason she felt so good when he was in her life is because he was holding this pain for her. He had took it on for himself, so she didn't have to feel it. She didn't realize she was living with this her whole life. But there was a significant change in her life when the dog appeared, because she felt better. She felt happier. All this weight was lifted off of her because this dog agreed to carry it. Now, she had 2 dogs at the time. This one dog was the one she felt the most connected to, and was the one that she was grieving, and was the specific dog that was carrying this pain for her. So when the dog died, he had to pass this energy back to her, so that the grief of losing him was more than just that. It was also the grief that she had taken on from her mother of losing her brother.
Wow.
Now, the reason I got the twin hit was because the brother, actually, when he died, he was with her in the womb, keeping her company. That's why I saw a twin. They're soulmates of some sort, and he was kind of filling her in on the story, getting her ready, helping her get adjusted to what she was up against, about to be born. So this is where the twin energy came from. So the dog, she read my book, and the dog that had died was pushing her to work with me, because he knew that I could help her. So she wasn't clear on why she was making an appointment, but she was following the guidance she was being given, which is to get us connected with that mentor that can help us through that part of our development, that part of our expansion. And so Anthea worked with her, I think, the first time and helped her transmute all of this really deep grief. I mean, she had to pull it out of her. There were so many wrapped up versions of this entanglement that had been passed down. This wasn't the first trauma of the family. There was many generations of traumatic family incidents that were compounded in this one that had to be dealt with. And it was amazing. Usually when I work with somebody, it's on a Zoom like this. And so I can see them change right in front of me as the canine guides are working on them. And when we get done with the healing part of it and we both get back on camera, I'm just like, wow, you look like a different person. And they feel completely different too, because their energies, it's almost like all of your parts have been taken apart and put back together in an improved version of you is what it feels like.
Like
You
clean.
just feel like you've been rebuilt.
Yeah, almost like you had all gunk in there, and then like you got yourself cleaned. You
Yeah.
know, that's what it feels like. Now, when it comes to you, how do you incorporate a heart-centered practice into your work, and why would you say the approach is vital in the healing process? Because people don't talk about that a lot of times.
Well, and there's many different things that people mean when they say heart centered, right? So for me, when you say heart centered, it's the ability to drop out of the mind into the heart and work in that space, which took me a long time to figure out how to do, to learn what that meant, because people mean so many different things when you say that. Some people just mean compassionate, and to me, it's more than that,
Yeah, it's
you know.
definitely much more than that.
But
That.
I am constantly cleaning my energy field, constantly checking the closets for any shadow work that needs to be dealt with. I I grid my space when I'm working with other people. And so when you are this fastidious, I'm fastidious with my diet, with my sleep, with my exercise,
We were talking
keeping,
about that before we actually jumped on the polish, your polish.
yeah, yeah. To me, even as a physical therapist in my practice, I would never tell my patients to do something that I wouldn't do, right? And the number one thing I never did as a consumer would be to work with someone who didn't embody the exact thing I wanted to achieve, right? So I wouldn't go to a doctor to lose weight if the doctor is fat. I
Right,
mean,
sure,
not to
sure.
be judgmental, but obviously they're not in alignment with what I'm trying to achieve, right? So I live by example everything that I teach my clients to do. And I know many healers aren't that way. Many healers don't have a clean, clear energy field. I know because I've engaged with them and I've received what the extras they have hanging around. So, when you're working with someone, it's very critical that this is a clean, safe space, right? And it takes a lot of dedication to achieve that. I spend hours a day making sure that my energy is clear and protected and safe. So coming from the heart is more to me, or working from the heart or treating from the heart is more than just, to me, being a compassionate, loving person. It's about being able to receive in an openness that has nothing to do with me, a clear channel, right? So it has nothing to do with my story, has nothing to do with, an hour before the call, I could have had a really bad experience, but I was able to shift my energy. So you're not experiencing that,
Sure.
right?
But you're a clear conduit for spirit to work through.
Yeah.
That's what shadow work allows, and it also reflection work allows it. But yes, so that is one way that you would do it, and definitely by walking the walk. And
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying. I wouldn't say I am as polished, but I definitely would say that I am as passionate, and we all have our own unique style. And as long as you can pretty much feel when you're working with someone that has good energy and when they don't, even if you don't know, you know what I mean? You can usually you can feel it. And I just think that working in a heart place is definitely putting your ego aside and just seeing everything through the lens of unconditional love. That you can look at it through these higher levels of consciousness. And that's what you can do when you are clean. Just for those of you that don't know out in the audience, because
Yeah.
we say these phrases like everyone should know what they mean, but I think that the language has gotten so thrown around a bit. So I wanted to just say your bestseller book, which we see, the Canine Spirit Guides. What message do you hope to convey to the world about the connection between humans and canine spirit guides? And obviously, where can people purchase the book?
Well, I think the biggest message that they are always pushing home is healing is meant to be instant and not hard. Not hard. We shouldn't have to work so hard to find our higher selves. And that's what they wish to achieve in working with humanity. And you can get this book anywhere. If you go to my website, you'll find a section for the book. You can go to Amazon. My website is heatherleighstrom.com. It's Heather, LEIGHSTROM.com. And I have lots of programs and workshops and also opportunities to work with me and the canine guides one-on-one.
Yes,
But
I keep an
yeah.
eye out for the school. That's coming out. That sounds fascinating. The school, the canine school that you
Oh, the
have.
university. Yeah.
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 Yes.
The university's in the process. I've got the first installment built. So I'm waiting for them to tell me to,
I'll
what's
have to keep an
next.
eye out.
But
I'll have to keep an
yeah.
eye
And I
out.
also share on I have a show on Gnostic TV, Howling at the Moon, where I share their frequencies with my audience. So I have shows where I'm introducing a certain guide and I share energetic frequency on that show from that canine spirit guide. So you can get to know them better from the show. Also from experiencing them in your own session as well.
Yes, and don't you have a YouTube channel? I know that you have a few things going on, so you can check her
Yeah.
out in many different mediums.
Yeah.
And I will post your website link on the network show if it's on website, if it's not already on there, just so
Okay.
that you folks know where you can purchase and find her. I want to thank you so much for making this time to be on my show, Heather. I really so appreciate you. And
Thank you.
for anyone to find Heather again, just book a service or to check out her courses and the array of, services. Just check out her website again. That's at Heather Strom.
Heather Leigh, Heather Leigh Strom
Thank
dot
you.
com.
It is, you do have your middle name, and it's not that I haven't gone to it a few times. A beautiful website too. And I want, like I said, thank you so much. And I wanted to just invite everyone to check out the Win Women store. There you can find an array of products and services from the lovely hosts of the Win Women Network. Check out my website, Pure Energy Healer, for my shadow healing coaching program. It's a very all-inclusive program. It has inner child healing, shadow healing, reparenting, all the healing modalities to help you recondition from the effects of trauma. So it's something that I make it fun because having to recondition the effects can be monotonous. You know, that we do EFT, we do breath work, but it's in a very fun and safe environment. So again, you can check that out on my YouTube channels by going to pureenergyhealer.com. Thank you again, Heather, for joining me.
Thank you
Really.
so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.